The Quran describes miracles from Jesus' childhood, but here's the mystery. Similar stories also appear in ancient non-biblical texts written centuries ago. Did these traditions share a common origin? Or is there another explanation? Today, we're comparing the Quran with the ancient Infancy Gospels and examining what historians actually know. Let's begin with a fact that both believers and historians can agree on. The Quran contains unique accounts of Jesus' childhood. For Muslims, the miracles of Jesus began even in infancy. The Quran describes two well-known miracles from his early childhood. First, Jesus spoke while still an infant. In Surah Maryam 19:29-33, when Mary was accused by her people after giving birth, she did not answer them herself. Instead, she pointed to the baby Jesus. Then, according to the Quran, the infant Jesus spoke from the cradle, declaring that he was a servant of God, a prophet, and that God had blessed him. For Muslims, this miracle publicly defended Mary's honor and affirmed Jesus' prophetic mission from the very beginning. This account is unique to the Quran and is not found in the canonical books of the New Testament. Many people believe these stories exist only in the Quran, but historians discovered something surprising. Centuries before Islam, several non-canonical Christian writings already described miracles from Jesus' childhood. But there's a catch. Those writings were never included in the New Testament. One of the most famous texts is the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. Most scholars date its composition to around the 2nd century AD. Despite its name, it was not written by the Apostle Thomas. The title was given later. The text contains stories about Jesus' childhood, and one of those stories is especially fascinating. Let's compare the two accounts. At first glance, the similarities are striking. Both describe Jesus creating birds from clay. But the theological meaning is very different. According to the Quran, the miracle happens only by God's permission. It is presented as a sign of Jesus' prophethood, not as proof of his own independent power. In the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, the birds come to life through Jesus' own command, without the repeated emphasis on God's permission. So while the stories share a similar theme, their religious message is fundamentally different. The next question is, if this story existed so early, why wasn't it included in the Bible? Most New Testament scholars explain that the early church accepted only the books that were believed to have apostolic origins, were widely used by Christian communities, and were consistent with the teachings accepted by the church. The Infancy Gospel of Thomas did not meet those criteria. As a result, it was classified as an apocryphal gospel. In other words, it is still studied by historians and scholars, but it is not regarded as scripture by the majority of Christian churches. This is where the discussion becomes even more fascinating. Historians themselves have not reached a single conclusion. Several major theories have been proposed. The first suggests that the Quran preserves oral traditions that had circulated for centuries. The second proposes that both the Quran and the apocryphal texts inherited an even older tradition that has since been lost. The third reflects the Islamic perspective. The similarities do not necessarily mean that the Quran copied earlier writings. Rather, both may preserve traces of ancient traditions, while the Quran is understood by Muslims as divine revelation that confirms and corrects the truth. What is important to remember is that there is no single scholarly consensus on the origin of this relationship. So, why do both the Quran and an ancient gospel that was never included in the Bible tell the story of Jesus creating birds from clay? Is it evidence of a widespread ancient tradition? Or is there another explanation? History has not given us a definitive answer. But one thing is clear, this remains one of the most fascinating connections between the Quran, early Christian literature, and the history of the ancient world. What do you think?